What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Today we're taking a look at what I feel are the top 23 Marvel Legends figures of 2023. So we'll do a little countdown. Here's the caveats though. You won't see any of your straight up re-releases, so think that Target Moon Knight, Amazing Fantasy Spider-Man, retro carded figures, and you won't see any of the Void Build-A-Figure wave on this countdown, as that is slated for 2024 and just haven't received it yet, so there's that. Let's see what we've got going on with this list. Let's check it out. Remember, this is just my picks for 23. Drop yours down in the comments below. Let's take a look at this list. Let's check it out.
Now tuning into the Encountered Culture.
Anyway, stop being me, place. Counterculture, it's in your face. It's fun to pretend that you want it to end. I'd rather be drinking with my friends. When we go out, you never see us again.
Coming in at number 23 is the Final Swing Spider-Man, so I'm sure there will be plenty of opinions about how low this is on the list. Coming in at 23 certainly seems like a very low spot for what is otherwise a great figure. However, it did make the list, so it is a very nice figure, right? That's already determined. The main complaints about this figure, though, are the reuse of that Tom Holland head that we've received multiple times now in different Spider-Man figures. The lack of accessories certainly is something to consider, right? Always need for more hands, web accessories. Spider-Man's a popular character, so they could always create new things to add to Spider-Man figures. They know they're going to sell. Perhaps that's why they kind of just cheap out on some of the accessories, because they don't see the need to put in the extra effort. But the biggest problem with this figure, though, is that loose drop-down hip on the left leg. Both legs are a little bit loose, but the left leg seems to have a major issue. Certainly seems like it's going to break off at any point. I know a lot of you out there who have bought this figure, that's already happened. Some of you have actually gone to extra lengths to take apart the figure, add some grease or other, nail polish, other tricks to help out this figure, but that's not something that you should have to do. So for those reasons, that's why this Final Swing Spider-Man is further down on the list than maybe some of you think it should be. Let me know what you think about that down in the comments below, and let's get into the rest of this list. At 22, we've got Mania, a new character in the Marvel Legends line. So this was in that 2-pack, the Target exclusive 2-pack with the Space Venom. A nice 2-pack indeed, especially for those of you who didn't have that Space Venom in your collections already. For the rest of us who were looking forward to adding Mania, this was a nice addition to the collection. Certainly nice to see. She's a smaller figure, but a good addition to any sort of symbiote display. That's where I've got her in my collection, so I was really looking forward to adding her. A lot of nice detail in the figure. You get the studded belts, the studded accessories, that spiked hair. I think some of the complaints were it was not as comically accurate as some would like it to be. I do think they always go for like an amalgamation of a character, right? So you have several variations to look forward to and just kind of piecing that together. A really fine figure in all accounts as far as I'm concerned. 21 brings us Pretty Boy, another addition to our Reavers collections. This was one I was very excited that was announced. They were putting into a pack. That's kind of where the complaints come in, is it is locked behind a multi-pack. For those of you who are specifically trying to finish out your Reavers team, you had to buy that pack. For those of you who were interested in other figures in that pack, you got stuck with Pretty Boy, right? So, to each their own how you collect, but I know that drives a lot of collectors crazy. I digress. This was a figure I was very much looking forward to, as I said. I did make some changes to mine. I added the red gloves. I think that gives a nice little pop. I added a larger gun from one of the Punisher figures because he needed a larger gun, right? So there could have been some improvements, some differences based on what they gave us, but we did get a new mold on this. You got a very nice head sculpt. You got some really cool detailing in the robotic parts of the figure. So there are definite plus sides to this figure itself. In the 20 spot, Yondu Target exclusive figure, what I feel was a very underappreciated figure this year. A lot of people either skipped out on it or didn't know it was coming out. A lot of the targets went to clearance on this figure. I get that there was, a smaller amount of accessories, a lack of accessories. There's no Build-A-Figure associated with this. I thought it was a character that was long awaited in the Marvel Legends line. Some of the complaints were it wasn't the exact version of the character, but we hadn't had a Yondu like this since the 3.75-inch figures, so when I saw this was announced, I was very excited about this. I was very high on this figure, so happy to add it. 20, I feel, is a fair spot on this. It's not a top 10 figure by any means, but it is certainly a worthwhile figure. So if you don't have it in your collections already, I recommend it. I like it. The colors look nice. It looks good on the Cosmic Shelf. Do with that information what you will. Coming in at 19 is Random. This is another character that I was excited was getting added to the Marvel Legends line. One that I had been hoping for a long time. It just has that pure 90s nostalgic fuel to it. So when I saw this coming out, it was a no-brainer for me. However, the major downside to this is it is locked inside of a multi-pack, and there probably aren't as many people that excited to get Random in action figure form. Some of the downsides, for me at least, were the size of the figure. So I do feel like it should have been a little bit larger in stature, should have come with more accessories and a different facial expression. I just think that he kind of looks sad in a way, so maybe like an angry face would have been cool. I realize you're not going to get like a cigar or anything like that, so I just give up on that whole idea altogether. Cool figure nonetheless. Some minor improvements would have made it that much better, and maybe people would have been that much more into it. I still think it's worthy of having a spot on this list, though, for me, because it was one of my top Marvel Legends of 2023. Coming up next at number 18 is Hawkeye. This is a figure that was definitely needed in the line. That retro-carded Hawkeye just became so hard to find, cost prohibitive for sure. The All-Father one, it was, basically the same figure, but just didn't have the look that was needed. This remedied that situation, and now we have a nice classic-looking Hawkeye. You did get the Sky Cycle that came with this, so for those of you who were collecting it for that reason, happy that you were able to get that to add to your collection. Wasn't needed in mine, so I'm not too concerned with the Sky Cycle itself, but the figure does look nice. They did use soft goods because of that Sky Cycle. That's not a huge selling point for me. I would have preferred it just all be plastic, but the cloth goods work pretty well. The only downside is the pattern doesn't match all the way through the costume because the cloth goods are slightly different than the plastic parts. So that could have been fixed, with a little bit of paint around there. Let me know if you guys have touched that up yourself and if it looks pretty good or not, how you feel about that. But all around a nice classic looking Hawkeye, certainly one that is worthy of adding to any Marvel Legends collection. Over at the 17 spot, we've got the brand new Bucky cap. So this replaces your old school Bucky cap. This is a great figure. Just very nice all around. Paint looks great. The figure looks great. It's on a nice bigger body, bigger buck now, so you're mostly on Vulcan. Just a very fine looking figure. The major downside to this figure, though, is that it is a Walmart exclusive, right? And these Walmart exclusives are either the hardest thing to find, or you can get them for $9.97. Craven. It's just a pain with the Walmart exclusives. That's the only major complaint I have about this. Granted, I do have it. I did get one. But it just becomes a burden for a lot of collectors that, maybe you didn't see the pre-order go up, you missed the pre-order, and you're SOL on that. I hardly ever see, if ever, any of these exclusives in an actual Walmart location. I think Ulick is the only figure I've ever seen in person that was a Walmart exclusive. Everything else never makes it to any of the Walmarts in my location. But this isn't a Walmart complaint video. This is a Marvel Legends countdown. So Bucky Cap, super fine figure. Hopefully you were able to get it. Hopefully you enjoy it. If not, I hope you do get your hands on it because it is a great figure. Lots of accessories, fully stacked, looks really clean on the shelf. Certainly recommend this figure for any Marvel Legends display. Number 16, Banshee. Long overdue for a more updated version in the Marvel Legends line. We did get that old green and yellow suit one way back when, but we had just been waiting on this. Some of us still waiting on the green and yellow suit, others this blue and yellow training suit was the right call. For me, it's the blue and yellow. There's just that little bit of nostalgia from the really old, like 5-inch Toy Biz one with the whistle on the back. Had that figure as a kid, and seeing it in this version, in this so updated body, pinless all around. You got a couple of face sculpts, a more classic version, and then a screaming head. So they didn't do us like they did with Siren. The cloth parts, I do wish it was painted on both sides or printed on both sides, however you want to say that. But from the front, looks really good. From the back, it just kind of looks a little weird. So that's my only gripe on that. I do love everything else about this figure. They gave the right head sculpts. They gave, some extra hands. So not a whole lot extra. Maybe a sort of vocal effect would have been cool, but I got to temper my expectations. This is locked in a 3-pack though. However, I do like what they're doing with those X-Men 3-packs because it's at least cohesive. Drop your thoughts down in the comments below about these packs. Let's talk about those. I'm a fan of it. Like to hear what you think. Number 15 on the list brings us yet another exclusive figure, this time Amazon exclusive, Ronan the Accuser. Another figure that was long overdue for an update. We did get the Build-A-Figure many years ago. That one, though, in comparison, just does not stand a chance. This is such a nicely done figure. I have a rather large cosmic display, and I need some more villains, so they're pumping them out, and I'm really enjoying it. So this is a good time for collectors, especially those of you who are into the cosmic stuff. I think we did get a lot of good additions this past year. Let me know what you think about that. This figure, though, certainly worthy of addition to any collection, whether you're doing cosmic or just a random collection, or you just want some good villains. Really nice design on the figure. Some reuse from Colossus, but good reuse, So I thoroughly enjoy this. I like the way the greens work with each other. You have 3 different green tones, and that blue and black face just really work so well together. Nice design, nice sculpting, really good figure all around. So that's what I think about it. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. At number 14, we've got Baron von Strucker, another figure that desperately needed an update. The older one looked good for what it was, but a time had come when it was time for a new one, and that was 2023. So I was absolutely happy to add this to the collection. We've got a nice bit of Hydra soldiers. You've got Red Skull. They just gave us the women troopers as well. So you're really able to build up your Hydra, your villains. That is certainly a plus. The face sculpt on this one just really stands out as a highlight. They got some really good detail in there. The colors pop. The accessories are pretty decent. Did need maybe a gun or sword. There is a saber that could have gone with him. So that would be the biggest gripe, is the lack of accessories, which is a very common theme in this line. Hopefully, they start to hear that feedback and start giving some more accessories in each figure. It really does make a lot of difference to get the right amount of accessories. Let me know what you guys think. If you like this figure, if this is too high for you for like a mainline release, I think it's right where it needs to be. A cool figure for sure. The number 13 spot brings us Drax the Destroyer. So this was in a 2-pack with Moondragon. Cool set. I like where this is going. They did give us several Guardians of the Galaxy related figures in 2023. Looking forward to what 2024 and beyond have in store for Guardians of the Galaxy and related characters. Really excited about where that's going. Like to get your thoughts on that. Let me know down below. But this figure is just nice because it's such a big, brooding character. He just towers over some of your other figures. They chose the right body sculpt for it. He just looks great. Head sculpts, both options are really nice. I like the expressions that they went with. The only thing, and I know that this is fairly accurate to the source material that they were going for, there are other versions of this costume though where it's not just like all of that purple down the leg. So if there could have been maybe a version of this figure with the green down the leg, that would have broke up the color a little bit. All around a great figure. This is in that 2-pack with Moondragon. The Moondragon figure being an okay figure. I mean, she's good to add a new character to the display, so I like it for that. But Drax is definitely the standout in that 2-pack and one worthy of talking about on this list. At number 12, we've got the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. So this is our second Spider-Man from the No Way Home figures to make this list. This is from the 3-pack as opposed to the single Carter release. However, I mean, take it how you want. I do feel like they are so similar you could just flip it for whichever one you have, right? The major difference in the retro card having the maskless face sculpt, which was kind of a dick move from Hasbro, right? Like they put out the 3-pack and then several months later put out the individual releases with the maskless face sculpts to double dip on that want for these characters. So say what you will about that. I do think probably the card back figures have the slight advantage because they do have the alternate head sculpts. However, the 3-pack is a fine pack indeed. I'm not going to display them without their masks on, so it's, not really a huge thing for me, but I do know that some collectors have a preference to display it without the masks, so do what you will. Just a great figure, though. I love how well the web lines are painted on. It just goes to show what the team could do in the Marvel Legends line. I just wish that every figure had as much detail. I know that's a hoop dream, but I'm just saying, it goes to show how good these figures really can be. At number 11, one of my personal favorites from the year, Wolverine from the X-Men 97 card back wave. Cool wave. Looking forward to the show for sure. Want to see what that's going to be like. This Wolverine is just a standout figure, a nice Wolverine in general. Even if you're not super hyped on X-Men 97 and you're just looking for a solid representation of Wolvie in your collection, this hits the nail right on the head. It's a really great looking figure, perfect stature, pinless all around, nice colors. The few dings on this figure are right here on the arms, not being painted, so the hair just looks weird if it's not painted. And then on the chin, there's a weird attempt at some stubble. But those two things aside, this is making for what's going to be some good Wolverine figures in the future. Just a really nice looking version of the character. It would be higher on the list if I was just doing like my personal favorites of the year, but I wanted to consider some other things too, so that's why he is coming in at number 11, which I think is fair either way. It is just a really good looking figure. On to number 10, Spider-Punk from Across the Spider-Verse. This may be a controversial pick for a top 10 figure in Marvel Legends of 2023, but there is just so much detail in this figure painted on that it just does take it to the next level. There are a lot of figures that came out in 2023. The rest of this wave is pretty forgettable. I skipped out on it completely. This figure, on the other hand, though, it has a very cool aesthetic, looks nice on the shelf. Whether you're a casual Marvel Legends collector or a movie collector or a punk rock enthusiast, it reaches on several levels. So that was a big draw for me adding it to the collection. It's from a movie. It's Marvel Legends, so I was already collecting those, and I'm a big fan of punk rock. So this just really captures a lot of elements for me. All the studded details painted in, the paint on the back, the stickers on the guitar, all of that just adds for very nice elements, and it really captures uh, the movie version of the character. While it may not be as good as the previous Spider-Punk that we had in Marvel Legends, as that one is definitely closer to what I would look for in my display aesthetic, it is still a very cool figure indeed. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. Let me know what you think about it down in the comments below. Did I miss the mark completely? Is this way too highly rated, or is it just right? In the number 9 spot, probably what will be considered the definitive Deadpool, at least for the foreseeable future. This is the Deadpool from the Hydra Bob 2-pack. This was a Pulse exclusive, so it is locked behind those walls. But if you were able to get this figure, you got it. Maybe you got it at SDCC or you got it on Hasbro Pulse. This Deadpool figure hits all the marks. Classic looking design, lots of articulation, has the toe articulation, so you're mostly on Renew Your Vows. Super clean looking figure, every imaginable accessory. This should be the standard for Marvel Legends figures. A core character, highly demanded character, with lots of accessories, really pulled through. I don't really have any bad things to say about this figure. It just hit a lot of marks. It got a lot of things right. The exclusivity of it may be a ding for some people, but if you're really into collecting these, you probably got it, or maybe you're still looking for it. Highly recommend this Deadpool. The pack in general, even if you're not into Hydra Bob, give it a shot. He's a cool character. If you already had like the Kit Bash version from a few years ago, I do think that this one is worth adding as an update to it, although I like the silver eyes on the head we got in that scooter pack, but this figure, totally worth it. At the number 8 spot, Strife. So this was another figure locked in a pack, but a figure that had become so hard for so many people to get their hands on that it really needed a re-release and an update. Not just a re-release, because it is an updated version of the character. I do think in a lot of ways it looks much better than the original version. However, it's not completely superior, so it's not one that you had to add. Unless you're a total completionist or you just wanted the figure and you never were able to get it to begin with. Downsides to it, lack of accessories, doesn't come with the sword, and it's like you guys probably could have just given the same exact one, same exact sword, but it didn't come with it, so that was a big complaint. But the head sculpt on this one looks so freaking good. It is just beyond impressive compared to the original release. You guys let me know, if it was a figure you were looking forward to, if you hated it because it was in a multi-pack, or you have the original one and it just seemed completely unnecessary. I do think 2023 was a good year for a lot of collectors, especially new collectors, because you got a lot of core figures, core characters in figure form, and a lot of older figures that were much harder to get your hands on. So to me that's a plus for the collector community. So let me know what you think. Number 7, Black Widow. This is the Target exclusive Black Widow. A mighty fine figure indeed. She comes with everything, right? So many accessories. She's got 3 heads, superposable as advertised. One of the best figures of the year for sure. The only major downside to this figure, if you have to find one, is the fact that it was a Target exclusive. It became so hard for a lot of collectors to find this figure. Some Targets went to clearance on it. Pre-orders sold out, weren't delivered. The figure hit shelves, sold out immediately. So there is definite demand for the figure, but being able to supply that demand seem to have been an issue this past year. So that would be the big gripe on this one. However, if you did get it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This Black Widow figure hits a lot of marks. This is going to be the standard for your female figures in the Marvel Legends line, or at least it should eventually be, and it needs to be. Again, as I said with the Deadpool earlier, like that amount of accessories should be the base offering, and this applies to this Black Widow. What she came with should be the base offering for Marvel Legends, but of course I'm living in a dream thinking that way, so all we can do is hope, and hope we will, and maybe we get more figures like this with all those accessories, all those interchangeable heads, because sometimes we just want those options from our figures. That's all. At number 6, we've got Blade. This is from a more recent wave, the Mindless One Build-A-Figure. A solid wave all the way around, and a figure that needed another release, as that other Blade had become a little bit harder to come by. They did go with a different look here, which I'm a fan of. I like the long trench coat. I like the Wesley Snipes-inspired face sculpt. My pseudo gripe on this is that I do wish there was an alternate head sculpt with a more calm expression or even expressionless. But this head sculpt is super nice. I mean, I say that it would be nice to have that alternate option for a head, but this would ultimately be the one that I would choose to display out of the two. And it is nice to have those options. You do get a good amount of accessories with this, so lots of weapons. Comes with some stakes, a sword, these blades. The body is on the almost exact same buck as the previous release, so that could have been updated. That would have been a nice touch for that, but all around, a pretty solid figure. Number 5, the Blob. Long overdue for a modern version, the original being the Build-A-Figure from Toy Biz back when. This was a piece that was missing in my collection and a lot of others, right? So that's why it was time. I get it. You see a lot of figures that have been redone on this list. It's just that there are a lot of figures that needed updates, and there are a lot of new collectors always coming into the hobby, so it is good to have these types of things. This one, some people think it's not as good as the old Build-A-Figure. The old Build-A-Figure was much uglier in a good way. This, however, is a fantastic figure. That's why you can't find it pretty much anywhere now, right? Everybody is on board for this one. When they do a good figure, it's done right. This is the result. So good in the Brotherhood display. It has all the right parts. Could it have had a little bit more like pockmark and freckle detailing in there? Absolutely. But there is some of that in there. The face sculpts are really well done. The size is pretty good. It maybe could have been a little bit bigger, but honestly, in a time when shelf space is at a premium, I think this was the right size for me at least. I am 100% on board with this. This is definitely a top 5 figure, if not higher than that, but top 5 is where I got him. Let me know where you have the Blob on your list. Let's talk about it. Number 4, the Destroyer. Finally, so long overdue was the Destroyer for Marvel Legends. It came out this year in that 2-pack with Thor. They had several of those Avengers 2-packs that came out. This one, probably the top of that list. The Skrulls, it was a good pack too. But the Destroyer, so happy to finally get this figure in Marvel Legends form. And for so long, the Marvel Select version had been a nice stand-in for collectors. But this is right up there with that Select version. I mean, in reality, they are so similar in size and look that this one, for me, takes the cake. It was a much more affordable option, especially with the amount of time that had gone by that Destroyer wasn't part of Marvel Legends, that Select version just kind of skyrocketed in price. So this was definitely a welcome addition for me, and I'm sure a lot of other collectors out there. Number 3, Joe Fixit. So of course we had the Build-A-Figure wave from a few years ago, the Gamerverse version of Joe Fixit. So maybe that wasn't the one that you were looking for in your collection, or I was looking for in my collection. So when this was announced, this was an automatic must-buy, no-brainer. This was, however, a Walmart exclusive, so as I spoke about with the Bucky cap, those tend to come with their own sets of issues. But for those of you that got this figure, you know how good it is in hand. I mean, the face sculpts are just incredible. Like, they just look maniacal. He looks ready to go. He's got the huge Tommy gun. The suit is a nice pinstripe suit. What I would have liked to have seen is them use those two-tone shoes again, because I really like the shoes on the Build-A-Figure, and maybe the red tie, but I'm a fan of the black tie, so I'm not big on that. The big gripe, though, is this sort of shirt showing under the sleeve when you lift the arms up. So maybe painted would have solved that issue. That is my biggest complaint about this figure. The shoes would be a nice thing to have, but that under the armpit area is my biggest complaint. Even still, it is certainly worthy of the number 3 spot on this countdown. Coming in at number 2 is Detroit Steel. So I'm sure that this won't be on a lot of people's top 10s. I'm just going to go ahead and say that. But it is certainly on mine, and I think most deservedly at this number 2 spot. There's a lot going on with this figure. It was a random release that I maybe wasn't even on my radar or just forgotten about, but when it was revealed, I was like, yeah, all right, that's cool. I'll take that. It looks cool. It's a newer character, so maybe the popularity isn't there, but it is just so massive and looks so cool in the display that this is when I'm you're collecting action figures, you want it to be fun. You want things to look forward to. This is that. This embodies that part of collecting. And that to me was the biggest draw for this figure. I'm saying that, nobody's going to have this in their top 10, or, very few people. And this one will probably be one that you out there have thoughts about. I certainly like to know if you are even rating this figure in any kind of way, or if it's totally off the radar. For me, though, firmly here at number 2, I stand by that. If there hadn't been this next figure on the list, then maybe it would have been the number 1 figure for me this year, just because it is fun. There's a lot going on, a lot of detail in there, and just a nice surprise in general. All right, let's check out some honorable mentions before we get into the number 1 spot. So Clea is a fairly basic figure, but one I really enjoyed from this year. So while not deserving of the list as is, certainly worth a mention. The Space Knight Venom is one that I'm sure will be on a lot of people's lists. The main reason I didn't include it on mine is because it is a re-release of a Build-A-Figure that we've had in years past. Now I would say, hold up, you had a bunch of re-releases on this list. I would counter and say that those were mostly updates. This was almost a piece-for-piece re-release. Next up is the PS5 Spider-Man. My biggest gripe with this was that, that PS4 version was such a cool figure and became so hard to find that they were like, all right, well, let's just do a PS5 version. But then the suit colors look all kind of weird. Some of the paint apps are really poorly done. And then they charged a lot more for the figure than they should have, giving this a, quote, premium price because that's the kind of figure it is. When in reality, it's just a poorly painted figure of a character version that people really want in their collections. It's a popular game. It makes sense that people want this figure. So it's just questionable in that regard, and that's why it did not make the list. While I didn't necessarily want to include any BAFs, Build-A-Figures on this list, I do think the Mindless one is noteworthy. It is the best Build-A-Figure of the year for Marvel Legends, so it is certainly worthwhile of getting a mention on this list. We've already had some Guardians of the Galaxy make an appearance on the list. Star-Lord didn't quite cut it, but definitely a cool figure and worth noting. The paint apps on this one were a little weak, so that contributed to it not being as good as it could be. But when the price was right, it was a good find. And finally, Chasm, I did feel like was worth noting. Almost made the list. If this was a top 25 list, I think he certainly would have made the cut. Cool figure. I didn't get to mention anything else from that carded wave. It's just the lack of accessories for me that really brought it down. And finally, in the number one spot, if you were paying attention to the honorable mentions, you probably already guessed it, or you're smart enough to know that if it wasn't on the list by now, it was definitely coming. This figure is far and away the best Marvel Legends figure of 2023. Whether you're an MCU collector or not, this figure blows everything else out of the water. From all of the detail, the accessories that it comes with, it just hits every single note needed for a premium Marvel Legends figure. This goes back, there are several figures in this year of releases that kind of identify what Marvel Legends could be if they wanted to take it to the next level. Of course, maybe that means more price increases, and we don't want that, right? So that kind of is counterintuitive to the argument. But from the releases of this past year, you can see that maybe things are going in a really nice direction. Some really great figures being released. Lots of great accessories with these figures. We'll see how it goes. There were a lot of things that went on clearance this past year. A lot of things that just did not get picked up. So I'm curious of how it goes in the future. This figure, though, as I was saying, finely detailed. Lots of nice paint. Lots of great accessories. The glider is a nice touch. Really great details throughout. The mask really captures the mask from the film. Both the Spider-Man from the Raimi movies and the No Way Home costumes are really captured in here. And there are people who are making custom versions of that Raimi version, just kind of highlighting the all green, metallic green. The one ding on this figure is just the neck being shown. So if I have the metallic Green Goblin mask on, I'm still seeing Willem Dafoe's neck, which really is the only thing that takes away on any level for this figure. The Willem Dafoe face sculpt looks really nice in hand. It is just a very, very nice figure. Let me know what you think about that down in the comments below. If you agree, especially if you disagree, I'd like to know what you think was the number one Marvel Legend figure of 2023. But for me, it was the Green Goblin.
Alright folks, so there you have it. There are your top 23 Marvel Legends of 2023, at least how I see it. Let me know, did I miss something that you're passionate about? Was there a figure that you're like, what the hell, why wasn't it on the list? Let me know down in the comments below. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hopefully you got something out of it. If you are over on Instagram or you are over on whatnot, feel free to check it out there as well. But most importantly, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe below. And until next time, take it easy.
I'm being erased, I'm being replaced. Counter-culture's in your face. It's fun to pretend that you want it to end. I'd rather be a drinking with my friends. When we go out, you'll never see us again.